Hey everybody, I am Melissa Hunter, and I have not posted to this channel in a very long time, but I was inspired today while I was listening to my pastor on virtual church, and it made me think about things that I can do and how I can help. And we were talking about the loaves and the fishes, and then it just got me, these two things don't go together actually color-wise. And it just got me thinking, and then as he was talking, I started writing stuff down. So this is Financial Survival Bootcamp, episode 1. So you are about to go through, and you are going through, we are all going through, a huge economic and social and health nightmare. But the economics of this are, I think, what's more scary than what we're seeing from a health perspective. You know, the mortality rates are low, and you know, but everything that's having to be done to not overwhelm the healthcare system, all of the closures, it's affecting everybody, and it's going to impact us all economically. There's just no way around that. It's just gonna happen. So how the heck can you prepare for this? If you are someone who's a big follower of Dave Ramsey and you know, do what he's taught you to do, then you've got money put aside for times such as these. You know, you've got 6 months of earnings put aside so that, you know, you can pay your bills. You know, you're not living in debt. But what do you do if you were, okay, I was not prepared for the apocalypse financially? What the heck can I do? So the first thing you can do is, I want you to try not to panic, okay? It's gonna be a struggle. Things are going to have to change, and you need to just, like, you don't have to accept it, but you just have to be with the isness of it. This is the way it is. And you're like, well, I think even you'd say. Not necessarily, because 10 years ago, we're at the 10th anniversary of me getting diagnosed with MS, and it just took my body, and it just totally, I had to retire from a career that was meant so much to me. It made a big financial impact on our family. And I remember losing my mind, like really having a very, very hard time with depression and anxiety. And the counselor that I was assigned to, she counsels people she only works with people who have terminal illnesses or chronic incurable diseases. That's just an amazing woman to specialize in that area. And I remember she said, like, you don't have to accept this. You don't have to find meaning in it. You don't have to, you don't have to make it, mean something in your life. But you do have to live it. And so I'm here to help you live it and live with it. She's like, you've been given something that you have to carry that you can never put down. And so we're going to help you learn how to live with it. And so if you can't find reason, or you can't just accept it, you still are going to have to live with it. So get out a notebook and let's figure out how you could go to boot camp real fast and figure out how to live with it. Okay. So the first thing I want you to do is reach out to people in your family, old people, if there are still people in your family who lived through the Depression, definitely reach out to them. Reach out to people in your family who lived through World War II. And I want you to actually, maybe this might happen for the first time in your life, actually ask them to tell you stories of what it was like, and listen to those stories. I was raised by my grandparents, and they obviously, they were, they'd be in their hundreds now. So they grew up during the Depression and were young marrieds in World War II. And I spent a lot of time with that generation. And, there's a certain mindset from people who grew up and lived through the Great Depression that in some ways was passed on to me And I wish I had lived a little bit more in that way. There's a lot that you can learn from them. And you can learn one thing very important right off the bat. They survived it. They are here. If they've not passed away, my grandparents passed away, but my grandparents grew to be very old. My grandmother passed away when she was 89, in a home that she owned a home. She raised a family. She had grandchildren who loved her. She had a life. After growing up and coming of age during the Depression, and then living through the privations of World War II. So the first thing to know, and the first thing to write down in your notebook is, you will survive this. That's all you need to know. I don't care whether you accept it or you don't accept what's happening. You will survive this. There is going to be an after. I don't know what after looks like. And that's part of what's scary for all of us. I hope after looks better than before. I really do hope that this is one of those things where we look back in 10 years or 20 years and say that that was the best thing that could have happened to our country or our world. Now, my faith tells me that that's what's going to happen. But if you don't have that faith, I strongly suggest you start watching some church online, but because faith really gets me through. But if you don't have that faith, just know that, just go look at the history. Go look at history. We survive it. We survive. We survive wars. We survive plagues. We survive famine. We survive. Human beings survive, and you will survive. Okay? So that's the first thing. Just know that. Gloria Gaynor said, I will survive. So talk to the older people in your life who lived through the Depression and World War II. Hear the stories and really ask them, but how did you get through it? Like, how did you handle this emotionally? And you will find that maybe they have a different kind of outlook and resilience than maybe you have. And you're thinking, I can't be like that. But you can change your mindset. So listen to them. Also, ask them some practicalities, some survival practicalities. Like, no, really, explain to me, how did you eat? What did you do? How did you do this? And I luckily, like, if things get really bad, I know how to stretch meals. I know how to make a lot of healthy, nutritious foods out of like nothing. So thanks to my grandmother. Now, I don't like those foods. She's got all in beans, which is escarole beans. But let me tell you, it provides all of the healthy things you need to grow big and strong. So if I have to eat escarole beans, if we get to that point, I will do it. Also, if you have any land that you can plant some vegetables in where you live, now is planting season in a lot of areas, or soon it will be planting season. Get yourself some seeds. They don't need to be special seeds. You can get 99-cent seeds. You probably would have to order them online because you can't go out. But plant some seeds so you can actually eat food that you grew yourself. Okay, so here's another thing. Step number 2, don't hoard. Share what you have. Share what you have with people in your community, with your family. If you have extra and people need it, give it to them. Because there's just sort of this cosmic law of the universe, or, in my faith, this is, what Jesus did with the loaves and the fishes, which Pastor Chris at church online just talked about this morning, was that you bring to God, or you bring to someone else what you have, and somehow the universe does this magical thing, and when we all do that, when we all give what we have to the community, it multiplies. And somehow what little we all had that we gave somehow magically manages to keep everybody going. It's a thing. It's how people lived through the Depression. They gave what they had. Now, I gotta tell you a story. My great-grandma, Caroline, Gadoline, she's like a saint in our family. And I want to tell you a story about Saint Caroline. That's what we call her. She's just, I pray to my great-grandmother. When it's like down in the dumps time, I've never met her. I never met her. She died when my mother was 13. So great-grandma Caroline and my great-grandpa Carmine were very blessed during the Depression. They had 10 children. They had 11. They lost one to the Spanish flu, but they only lost one child to the Spanish flu in 1918. They owned a tavern and a home, and they were able to keep going during the Depression because they gave. I really believe this is why they survived. It's because they gave. There was always an extra seat at the dinner table. There was a woman who, until I was an adult, I thought was related to my great-grandparents in some way, Aunt Marie Antoinette, Zia Mariandon. And they had like a third floor with a little apartment, and she lived up there, but she took all her meals with the family and hung out with them. And they called her, Aunt Marie Antoinette, Zia Mariandon. She was in no way related to them. She was just some old woman from the neighborhood who had nowhere else to go, and my great-grandparents took her in. So there's a story about my great-grandmother that, things got really bad during the Depression, and there was a bar where some girls were dancing, basically stripping, because, these nice girls from, good family, they needed to eat, okay? People needed to eat. And when my great-grandmother found out about it, she was horrified because she had 9 daughters. And so she got very upset. She grabbed a bunch of coats. She went down to the bar. She threw the coats on the girls, grabbed the girls, and said, "You don't have to do this. You come home with me and I feed you." She didn't speak very good English. She spoke almost no English, by the way. So I'm sure it wasn't even that well spoken. But basically, she made a lot of men angry. She dragged the dancing girls out of the bar and brought them to her home to feed them and said, "You don't have to do that. Don't do that again. You come here. I'll feed you." That's why my great-grandparents survived the Depression, and their children all went on to have great lives. The second thing I need you to do for you, is you need to stop spending. Now, I know that the government and everybody is going to be really mad at me for saying that. You can spend on essentials. I know we want to support small businesses, but the first thing you need to do is look to see if you're able to do that. Now, my family is able to do that, okay? We've learned to be good stewards of our money, and thank God we got it under control right before this happened, because I'm telling you, we were not in good shape. We were not in good shape. We were not good stewards of our money. I was not a good steward of our money. I will admit that openly. I jacked up the credit cards because I had spending issues, which I have reformed, and we are out of debt and we have money in the bank. So we are in a position where we can still support local businesses, a little bit and things like that. But if you just lost your job and you have nothing in the bank, you need to stop with the Uber Eats and the Instacart, okay? And the Grubhub. You need to stop. The other thing that you need to do is you need to sit down. You got to get your banks, pull up your bank statement, pull up your credit card statements, and you need to look at every single expense. And it will make you want to throw up. And I don't want you to waste paper, because originally I was like, print it out and then cross out the things that were not essential, okay? Okay, write it down somewhere. Take notes on your iPad, on your laptop, write down every bit of money, every expense, every expenditure that was not necessary. And you're gonna be like, wow, that was almost everything I did. Wow. Okay, so the first thing is you're going to stop using your credit cards, if you can. Try not to live off your credit cards during this time, because that's not going to end well for you at all. Sell off whatever you can. eBay is still there. Start selling stuff. Get cash somehow, okay? Can you sell your car and then buy a used piece of junk car for a while so that you don't have a car payment, or so that you have cash. That's the Dave Ramsey method. You do not need a new car. You can drive a junker. You will survive. You will. I drove junkers on my first, until I had my first real job. I drove some cars that you would not believe. Drove cars with holes in the floorboards, like you could do like Flintstone power. It was just a piece of plywood. I drove one that only one door opened. Driver's side though, so that was good. It had a leak. It was a station wagon. It leaked in the bank. It was like filled with mold, but it ran. Cracked A-frame, so it always looked like it was turning right. It got me back and forth to work. And, so that's something to look at. What can you sell right now? What is not important? What can you sell off? Please don't sell your body though, because my great-grandmother would really, really hate that. Stop all of your subscriptions to everything. Okay? You don't even actually, if you have a cell phone, you don't need to have home internet. Think about it. Okay? You can get rid of your cable. Well, I have a contract with my cable company. Really? Call them up and tell them you can't pay them anymore. Say, I'm sorry, I cannot pay you anymore. I am canceling my contract. Okay? Cancel Hulu, cancel Netflix, cancel all of the things that you subscribe to. But my favorite shows. Desperate times call for desperate measures, people. I had to give up Hulu. There's some shows on Hulu I would really like to watch. Don't have Hulu, okay? So get rid of all of the things that you subscribe to. The gym membership, quit the gym. I want to quit the gym. Do you really go? Do you need to go? No, you can exercise in your house. Get rid of it. Get rid of all of the subscriptions. All of them. And you're going to find stuff in your bills that you're like, I did not know I was still paying for that every month. I have not used that in forever. The government is forcing us really, which I think is amazing. And I'm looking at this as a great opportunity to look at what's essential in our lives and what's not essential in our lives. This is not essential. These are my acrylic nails. These are not essential. And eventually these are going to fall off. and I don't know. I don't know yet if I'm gonna, I don't know. I love my nails. But maybe I'll learn how to live without my fake nails that I've had for like 25 years. I don't know. So, look at those things. You're being forced to give up a lot of those things. So learn how to live without them. Live in community. Can you join forces? Okay. So your second assignment was to look at all of your bills, right? And figure out what's not essential and stop doing it and sell things. All right. Find a way to get liquid cash-wise. Your third one is, can you live somehow in community? Can you change your current living situation so that you can come together with other people, whether it's family or friends? I'm talking about roommates. I'm talking about families moving in together. You're like, well, we're supposed to be social distancing. Yes, we are. We are. But we're also going to need to economize. So at some point, some families are going to have to move in together. It's not traditional. We're used to living separately and being independent. Okay, now might be the time to go move back in with your parents, guys. I know that's horrifying, but this might be the time. Go move in with your parents and get your butt out of debt, okay? Let go of your pride, get your butt out of debt, okay? So that is your other assignment in boot camp this week, is to figure out if you can live in community somehow. Can you get a roommate? Is somebody looking for a roommate that you know? Talk to your friends. Is there someone who's like, you both just lost your jobs, you don't know what the heck you're gonna do? Can you pool your resources somehow right now? Become a community, either with your family, your friends, your cousins. Don't move in with strangers right now, just saying. But figure out a way to get through this with community, because we cannot do this alone. You cannot do this alone. You need to join forces with other people in your life that love you and you love. And together, we can all get through this. So I'm going to keep giving you some financial advice and life advice that will hopefully get you through this, but more importantly, I hope carry you through the rest of your life. But it's times like this that we are forced to grow and change much faster than we've been doing. You've been on like sort of like, you know, we're talking about flattening the curve. So your life, you've been living kind of a flat curve. Yeah, okay, God and the universe is about to really ramp it up and you're gonna have to move much faster. So ask me questions down below. Feel free to roast me if you don't agree with me, but remember that I'm probably a lot older than you and I've been through stuff. And talk to your grandparents, your great-grandparents, your parents, you know, if they remember World War II, and look at your expenses, figure out what you can get rid of, work in community with other people, figure out how you can come together as a community, and just stay hopeful. Don't give up hope. This is it. It's happening. You got no choice. So how do you make it work? How do you get through this? How do you survive it? That's the question. And I'm going to hopefully help you answer that. I don't know you, but I do know that you can do this, because if I can do it, anybody can do it. Trust me. Love you guys. I wish you all the best. Stay home, save lives, stay well. Love you. Bye.